Hey, what's up, people? Hey, what's going on? This is Nate, formerly, well, I can't say formerly like I don't do it no more, host of the Artist Exchange radio show. And this workshop series is being brought to you by this young man right here, Mr. Taki, gentleman that I think this is the third one we've done. I met him and we began to have a conversation about learning styles and communication, and it's grown into this, and I am supporting him in helping him to get his message out. If you follow him on social media, you'll be able to find his live videos. When he starts to talk, he's going to give that out at the top, and then I'll put it up on the screen, and then we're going to get into the class. So it's on you, brother.
All right, thank you for having on, and thank you for everybody that's tuning in. Um, Pretty much what it is that what I'm bringing is what I call communication and translation, where we simply just go into the laws of what is communicating, how we receive that information and how we give that information, which I call the teaching and learning styles. How we retain that information, which is what we call memory, thinking, and the present moment, which is actually our feeling, the existence of everything. Um, so these aspects of what we call learning and teaching are up under the label called learning and teaching. The function of it is receiving is a learning, and teaching is giving. That's the function of it. We could also go into a visual aspect of it by showing magnets being learning, because learning is something that's magnetized, pulled in, and teaching would be electrical, shut out. So this is also labeled under feminine principle and masculine principle. Magnet being feminine, electrical being masculine. So pretty much what I do is I just take you down into understanding your teaching style, your learning style, your present moment, and your memory style. Today, primarily, my focus is more so on concentrating the complementary aspects of your teaching and learning styles. Also to express the limitations of the memory, why it's hard for us to remember, why we call this thing where we can't remember certain things. How do we apply this method, which I call navigating through the chaos, and having the ability to apply your teaching and learning style with it, and the function of the auditorial aspect. So pretty much generalization is I'm gonna be going into the auditorial. What is the sound aspect? What's the auditory aspect that exists in everybody? But how is the four aspects of it being used, and what's the purpose of that? So I just jump right in the complementary aspects of teaching and learning. When it comes to the teaching aspect, this is a duality aspect. So you have the way that you teach, and then the way that life teaches you. Okay. If that picture has came through, we could pull it up now. Kind of help me to explain it a little bit more if we can. Your learning style and your teaching style go hand in hand. The energies that surround them are it's kind of complicated because we don't really have the literature in order to really express this. So I am bringing forth the literature to express these aspects that we have had a hard time being able to communicate, because the literature in which we use talks about the surface aspect of conversations, and we're trying to talk of deeper aspects without having literature to connect that. So the teaching style is what actually teaches you. Like life teaches you a certain way too, and from what it teaches you, you learn from it. These are two different aspects of this energy coming in. When there's energy coming in, it has to hit a point. That's magnetic. That's your learning style. All right. So a lot of people in times get their teaching styles confused with their learning style, because the teaching style is the energy coming inward. So it's the impact aspect. So your learning style is pretty much the way you reacted to the impact. So impact came in, boom, you so that part, that teaching style is always going to be like is a what we're going to call that a strong energy, because it brings a shift. And the aspect, once that shift hits us, the way we react to that aspect is our learning style. You know what I'm saying? And this is the part we kind of like overlook for the most part, but this is what we got out of that situation. We a lot of times kind of concentrate on the way it came in. That's just the relationship that it has. So listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. Let's take, for example, you're a visual teacher and you are an experienced learner, meaning that you learn through involvement. Once you get involved in it, how you transfer and give that involvement is you show it, right? Okay, so this same aspect is the way life teaches that individual. Life teaches that visual person through the visual, through the picture, through the reaction, and from that reaction, that's an involvement that is learned from it. All right, so the visual teacher, life is going to bring an action. Boom, something that can be seen is a visual, and from that visual, you can touch it. That's still, you can get involved in it. So you're learning from this picture how to feel, how to touch, how to experience what it is that you see. So the visual is what's teaching you. This is how it made you feel. Your experience with that vision is what you learn. It's the part that you're learning. This your learning part. So that's a visual teacher and a feeling learner. So let's take a visual teacher and an auditory learner. Now it is the picture coming in, what is being shown, reaction, boom. What that person is going to learn from it is the value of it. What value does this bring? The sound of this. How do you create the sound of it? The sound of this. What value does it hold? I can show you. What value is it? The value of it. All right. That's the auditory. That's the visual teacher with the who is the auditorial learner. Now we go into the visual teacher who is a step-by-step learner. Listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. The visual teacher, boom, here's the vision, here's the scenery, here's the picture, here's the reaction. What that person learns step by step is how to organize that. The events from that picture, okay, compartmentalize it. Putting everything in its proper place. That picture is an arrangement. Certain things, a picture, this had to happen, that had to happen. You're learning how to navigate it, how to put that in a pattern, how to organize that, what to dissect first, what to dissect second, what comes first, what comes last in it. You're learning how to put motion to the picture. You process it, you put motion into it. There's an energy from it. Now you have, that's only 3 ways that could go, because it couldn't be a visual learner and a visual teacher, because you can't have you can't have 2 norths on a compass. All right. So listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. Now we're going to go to an auditorial teacher and has the 3 different learning styles. So now you have an auditorial teacher who is a visual learner. So what life teaches that person is the value. So the value of things, the sound, right? Another word for value, another word for sound is value. And what that auditorial teacher is getting from that aspect is, what the auditorial teacher is getting from the aspect is how to react to that value. This is valuable. How to react to that value. how to see the value. That's what that person learned, is how to see the value. The value came in, that's what's being taught. How to see the value is what's learned. The auditorial teacher and a step-by-step learner. The value is what's being taught, how to organize that, rhythmize it, cyclic it. What is the cycles of it, the patterns of that sound? How many times does it come around? And what the arrangement of it? How long did the sound, how long does the value last? What is the strength of the value? The highs and the lows, the position of the value. This is organizing. This is process, putting motion to it. Everything has to be in some type of form. It's coming from some type of energy. What is the energy from it? Another way. All right. Auditorial teacher who is a feeling learner. So here comes the value, and this value has to, from this value, you get a experience from it, how to experience the value. This is valuable. Let me touch it. Let me feel it. Let me get involved with it. So how to feel about a value. Well, how to experience the value is what that person learns from it. Here's value. Oh, that's what they learn. All right. Now we go listen to this process, organize the process, experience the process, watch the process. Now we have a step-by-step teacher who is an auditorial learner. Everything is cyclical. Everything is pattern. It's movement. It's rhythm. It's an energy. And what that person learns from that energy is the value of it. How to communicate that. What is the value of this energy? What is the value of that? That is an auditorial. That's an auditorial learner who's in a step-by-step teacher. We'll have a step-by-step teacher, like as we see up on the screen as we're looking on our right side, and we can imagine steps being right there. This is the symbol for the step-by-step or rhythmic. All right, so now we have at the bottom a visual picture of an eye at the bottom. So we have a step-by-step teacher, cyclical teacher, who is a visual learner. So here comes the pattern. Here comes the cycles. And within them cycles, that visual person has to learn how to turn movement into something that is still. Right? Everything is in motion, but it's a pattern. If I did this right here, you're going to see the energy line. You know what I'm saying? The signature that was there. You froze it to be able to see it, the reaction. Right? You have to make something that is in motion become still. That's picture. Show the differences between every aspect. That's visual. So the motion has to become still. So it has to know how to bring that which is in motion into focus. Something that can be seen. So how to see that pattern. That's what the visual student learns. A step-by-step teacher and a feeling learner. This is a person where the cycles is coming through, the cycles and the patterns come through, and based off those cycles and those patterns, they learn how to get involved with it, how to get involved with this count, how to get involved with this rhythm, how to feel when this time period comes, how to experience that, how to get involved with that. How does it make you feel? All right. Now we have a what we have? A visual. Did we do visual? Oh, a feeling teacher and an auditorial learner. This is the person where they experience the feeling, the involvement comes in, the feeling, but what they learn from the feeling is how to value it. What is the value of this experience? What is the value of it? It is a great day. That's the value. It is Wednesday. All it is, everything was Wednesday. You know, that's the value of it. Putting a sound to the whole thing that value it. Experienced teacher and a visual learner. All right, an experienced teacher, listen to this process, organize the process, experience this process, watch this process. An experienced teacher and a visual learner. Now this is the experience, this feeling being turned into something that can be seen. Just experience everything that you're touching, see yourself. Now be able to see it in the picture, freeze that. See what it, draw it, be able to react to that. See what it looks like, watch it. That which is experienced can now be watched. How to see it, all right? An experienced teacher who is a step-by-step learner. Here's the experience coming in, here's the involvement coming in, the time, now it's learning the time, how long did it last? How many times does it repeat? The growth or the decrease that came from it. That's what it's learned from it. So it's very, it's interesting how the connection plays between the teaching and learning style. So a lot of times this is what we would hear, and if you're asking a person a question like, well, how do you learn? I mean, if I was to teach you something that you do not know, which is me asking you how would you learn, how would you want me to teach it to you? Would you want me to tell it to you, show it to you, get you involved, provide the steps? Some people are like, well, I guess all of them. It's like I feel like I learn all of them. It's any type of way. Not really, because every direction is, if we was to look at what we got, learning, teaching, and memory and present moment, if we was looking at that as a compass, then you're saying that you could be both. It could be two directions of north. Oh, everything is transitional truth. Everything is transitional, everything is in motion, but within those transitions, there's limitations. Because when that transition, if you're spinning that clock around, that clock still has to go to the north, you know what I'm saying, to the north, to the east, to the south, to the west. Even though it's going around like that, still is caught in the limitation because it cannot be here and there at the same time. But it can be cyclical there. So it's limitations, even though it's always rotating. So you're going through the different auditorial, the visual, the experience, and the movement. But within that, going through it, you are limited at points and how much you can access. And this part between this teaching and learning can a lot of times get confused because the teaching aspect is more what is more impactful than what is learning, because the learning is the internal aspect, almost a part of you kind of unconscious of it. And that's why it's always the learning part is attached to the memory, because what helps you to be able to understand that what you learn comes from your memory. And when you're learning something, you're going into your memory of you saying what it is that you're learning because it's passing by. It's from the past that you're getting it. But that teaching was being taught to you is connected to your present moment. That's why you see the teaching connected to the present moment, because the present moment is what you're unconscious of. You're conscious but unconscious of it at the same time. And it's not until out of that consciousness you are taught a part of that consciousness. And when you're taught it and it comes through, that which is taught was already in the present anyway. But it became significant to you that boom, when it came through, you learned it. And when you're at that same process of learning it, what you're connecting from is what you're learning from is something that has already took place with your past. So that's why the memory is connected to that, because when we just take off memory and we take off present moment, listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. This is why it becomes very confusing or delicate to figure out, because the other aspects that connect to it are not inside of the equation when we're soloing this aspect, because they're interchangeable. But usually the way life teaches you is going to be the part that people are more a lot of times going to be trying to communicate, because we really aren't taught how we learn. We're really not taught to pay attention or to hear or to value or to process or to get involved with the way that we learn. We really don't. So this is bringing awareness to that part that we have been functioning as, that we have been experiencing, which we have been seeing or being revealed and been moving in. This is bringing the literature to be able to communicate that, because it is a part of life that we're doing. We just haven't had the literature in order to communicate that. So now I'm bringing the literature into how to communicate that by breaking it down and showing like, no, this is a functioning part. There's a teaching and there's a learning style. And it's clear how they could get mixed up, but giving and receiving is not the same. They're just simply not the same. So when we put it in that perspective, then we're like, okay, I gave this ball to you. When I threw this ball to you, I threw it to you. But me throwing it to you and you catching it is not the same thing. though you're probably gonna have more. Even though you're gonna be more 9 times out of 10 more connected to the fact that I threw the ball to you and you had to catch it. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna that part, but the way you catch it, how it felt, the whole 9 yards, it takes a little bit more going into the memory, concentrating a little bit more to be able to grab that part. So I'm just bringing the awareness of that connection between the teaching and the learning aspect. They're two totally different things. The way you're receiving something is not the way you're giving something. Though they both feel good. Receiving and getting something, somebody give you something feels good. And we have to admit, giving something feels good too. Just like sometimes receiving something can feel bad. And just like when you gotta give something, it can be bad. They're both relative. That's what I'm saying. They're both the relative aspect, but they are two totally different functions. But they both experience the same type of good and bad type of aspects of, the two. So yeah, so that's the part. So I'm just communicating that part of how they relate. All right. So the next thing is the limitations of memory. So like listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. The limitation of memory is like I know we experience sometimes where we'll go and somebody ask you a question or you'll be thinking about something like, man, what it was, I cannot remember for nothing in the world. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to remember what it was I was finna say. I'm trying to remember, we get to these aspects. Not to mention that a diet plays a major role into that, but what actually happening is a lot of times we are trying to remember what we don't really have access to memory. You, for example, listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. If you are auditory memory, then you're good at remembering the value of things. You hold the memory of value. You actually speak in order to remember. Speaking for you is remembering. So value, sound is what you remember. So you can remember what you heard. You know what I'm saying? You can remember the value of things, but then you're trying to remember what you saw and you're like, man, I forgot trying to remember because what you're trying to remember is visual. And because you're not visual memory, you're not having access into gaining that which you know, but you don't have access to it because you're limited to being able to travel that only through the value, only through the sound. So as long as you're trying to remember what it was that you saw, or as long as you're trying to remember what it was that you felt, or as long as you're trying to remember the event, then you're not going to have access to it. You got to be comfortable enough to go back and like, well, what is it what you're trying to remember is what was the value of me being here? What is the value of it? Now it comes back. Now that you have resonated back within the dominion of what it is in which your memory holds in value. And then when you do that, like, oh, it came back to me now because you wasn't trying to pull things there that don't exist there. Sound is where you hold that. If you're visual, you trying to remember what you heard, or you trying to remember the events, or you trying to remember where it felt, and you just can't remember that part of it, and you're like, I just can't remember until you just accept what is a reaction. It's something seen is what I'm remembering. Let me see. You know what I'm saying? Now it comes back because it's visual. If you're step by step, you remember the events, you remember the movement, the pattern of something. You're trying to remember what you saw. There's no movement, so it's going. You have a hard time accessing them because every time you go into memory, it's motion, but you gotta try to get vision. This causes no motion, so that means you locked out. You know what I'm saying? So or you feeling memory. So you need feeling memory is really it's still, but it's just so vast. You know what I'm saying? It's like, where is the direction in the vastness of anything can be at all? Just all of that. There's no direction in it. Where's the feeling of the where is the right of the feeling of the chair, of the whole chair that you feel? Where is the right part of it? You know what I'm saying? You gotta start going with the eyes and all that type of stuff. But you're trying to remember the events and that movement. There's no movement in it because in order to feel, you gotta embrace. It just, you know what I'm saying? Motion is like, man, we gotta keep it going. So you don't have access to that because you needed to be all within the event. You needed to be motion. Motion, the movement is what the memory is. Everything that was in motion, everything that's constantly going, that's what it is. That's what the access is. The auditory sound, you're not concerned with the value because the value on it isolated to one particular thing. With movement, it's like 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, step forward. It don't matter about the steps. All the steps is just as valuable. Ain't no importance in it. This has to be. It's movement. So then you're blocked out because you're trying to remember what was being limited in there. You may be who did I forget? It's a visual feeling, or you may be a feeling memory where it's just all about the experience is only the feeling, and you try to remember something that you saw. There's no feeling there, so total no access. You're trying to put a value to it. There's no sound. There's no sound to it because it's just, and then you're trying to get movement to it, but the movement is causing you to have to be able to concentrate to get to embrace because it's like it's gonna hurt. So you trying to get this feeling, and you have to just go into the experience. You have to just accept the experience part of it. It's all in the way you felt, the way it made you feel, not in how you seen it, not in how it was moving, not in the way it sound, just simply how it felt. That's your access. So these become the limitation of the memory, and why we have them parts where we be forgetting. When we don't remember, when we are not aware of our memory style, we will be stuck and angry at ourselves for not being able to remember what we don't even have access to. So your memory is limited. Keep in mind, memory logic is all, the totality of it comes from nothing. Nothing is the total sum of the whole. Out of nothing, everything comes down. Like, well, we got something. So then we get to this part. Well, memory is auditorial, memory is visual, memory is movement, memory is visual. But you have been limited to only having the access into that aspect through this. So that's why another person could come up that can have a different memory and add to it. You may be like, I don't remember that, because they may be visual, you may be auditorial. So you remember the value, and here they come communicating the visual. You're like, damn, I don't really remember that for real like that, because you didn't hold access to the visual. And the visual that they're talking about probably is 9 out of 10 connecting to what it is that you're saying. But the visual in which they remember is not connected to the value in which you hold. You didn't hold that aspect of value. That probably was not so much valuable to you. So it's at a lower octave. But they're communicating that visual of that lower octave, and it's not registering because it wasn't of value. Not saying it wasn't valuable, but not of value. Like you didn't, like that. So you have these situations, or somebody may remember what they saw, and then this person the next person in that same scenario is bringing on how it felt, and it's not connecting, because they're only remembering only things that are visible, and this person is bringing the aspect that is the invisible, how it felt, and they don't have access to the feeling. So this is why we have those type of scenarios occurring. And this is why it's important to know what your memory style is. By understanding your memory style, you'll be able to communicate. You'll be able to communicate with people a lot more easier, because I would say, let's just process, organize the process, experience the process, watch the process. I would start off my sentence by saying, let's say. But me saying say is auditorial. I'm auditorial learner. So even though I'm saying the word say, for me, say, speaking sound, value is really me communicating I'm learning right now. So when I'm saying the word say or speak, I'm communicating really what this is functioning as. This is a learning thing. So I'm using the word say. So I'm like, okay, so let's say, let's say you are a feeling memory, and you're remembering the experience of things, all right? And someone tells you, that's trying to communicate to you about remembering something, and they're visual. So they're going to say, man, what it was looking like that day, you know what I'm saying? What you saw that day. And they're communicating with memory, but you're not visual memory. So when you hear the word saw, it's not going to connect to you in memory style. You may be visual present. So when they use the word saw, instead of it connecting to you memory like theirs is, it's going to connect you in your present moment. And you're going to be like, you only can see now. Because that word trigger, even though they're trying to have access to the memory, is because they use the word saw. So if a person, when you know a person's memory style, then you communicate in that form. So if I am a feeling learner and say if I was a visual memory, I remember visual, and I want a person to communicate with me on their memory and their feeling. I wouldn't ask them what did they see. I would ask them how did they feel. Because when I use the word feel, it triggers their memory. So therefore they'll be able to communicate that and we'll be on the same page. If they're auditory memory and I'm feeling memory, I'm not gonna ask them how did they feel about it. I'm gonna ask them what did it sound like to them. Because when they hear sound and that they could travel there in sound, so therefore now they could have access to the thought. If there's step-by-step memory, I'm an auditorial memory, I'm not going to ask them what did it sound like. I'm gonna ask them what you know what I'm saying, what was the energy to you? What was the movement to you? Because they got access to their memory in movement. So vice versa. So this is what I'm saying. It gives you more accurate access into being able to communicate what you're trying to communicate. Because just when we be unconscious and we just say, well, how we remember it, we put it in terminologies and want a person to have access to memory like that, and it just doesn't work. And we wonder like why they ain't clicking for them, why they can't answer the question. We be having these type of situations happen. It's not that they can't answer the question. You didn't communicate it to them in a way that they have access to it. You told them to travel. You told them to travel to Australia in a car when they only had to either travel to Australia on a plane or they're going to travel there on a boat. So yeah, they could get to Australia, but you're trying to tell them travel in a car, like I can't get there in the car. So you're like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? So we have to be able to know how to formulate our words that way. You know what I'm saying? So it gets very technical. And like I said, as I'm going and getting deeper and deeper into understanding these laws and principles, I'm further and further understanding why it is so difficult and frustrating for people having conversations, to be honest. While we choose the road of just saying pretty much simply anything just to say things, or if they're stupid or not, or we go into the point we just boasting or bragging, or we just, I understand it now because when you got to apply laws, it takes a science to this thing. It actually takes concentration, and it makes you really appreciate the ability to be able to communicate, to be able to talk, and to actually start honoring it a lot more because this is a borrowed thing from God. And there are laws just like everything else that govern it in order to have the assets to it that we have available to us. But you have to apply. It's work that has to be done. And it's very hard because we wasn't taught this early on. So we just like in this chaotic state, which brings me to the next thing that I want to touch on. So my third point is the use of chaos talking in a reference to the style of, to this method of teaching. So what I call chaos is what we're naturally doing all the time. Man, what's going on? Blah, 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 all this. Blah, 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 blah. All that, you know what I'm saying? It's really like I'm pretending like I know, I really don't know. I'm not really, I'm hearing it out to bypass time. I'm really not in it. Or if I'm emotional enough, I'll connect with it just based on the fact on how I feel. But at the same time, I'm just really not resonating with it. You know what I'm saying? It's not making an impact. It's not really changing my life. It's not doing anything to help improve me, to make me to a better person. I'm just utilizing emotions or practicing the polite way to go about doing things, but it's not actually resonating with the God inside of me. I'm not understanding your experience in life is different from mine. Nothing has nothing to do with me. I'm just doing the polite thing, addressing energy, like that type of stuff, which is existing, true enough. You always had the freedom to do that, but we have to put this thing in order, is what I'm saying. And this helps listen to this process, organize the process, experience the process, watch the process to bring things in order. Now, because this is a new type of style, new way of talking, it's not going to be accepted right off top. It's not going to be accepted right off top. Just like if a new type of genre of music come out, people are going to criticize it and be like, what the heck? Anything that's different is going to come with a lot of, pushback and things of that nature. Just simply on the strength that it's new. Now, that's another subject to get into. That I had to go another time to go into that part, why that happens. But for the most part, when we're doing on this type of level of something that actually worked, that you actually have to apply, it's gonna have that, but you have to use the chaos in order to get into the order, is what I'm saying, because they go hand in hand. So it's not like we just jump in and we just introduce it until we practice it enough for ourselves. We can, but for the most part, you're always gonna have to use a sense of the chaos. Listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. Because people are comfortable with the chaos, so the chaos is used as a buffering thing to bring it in. But don't get comfortable with the chaos, because the chaos is not going to give you the results that you need, because balance is the results that you need. So you need chaos and you need order. So if you're just going to let the chaos just go on and you're not going to apply the order, you're going to miss the message. So you have to get in after that part and find a way to be like, okay, at a certain point, what is this conversation for? We're trying to understand each other. I'm trying to learn from you. You're trying to learn from me. We're trying to connect and communicate to the God within the inside. All right, so let's apply the door that is needed in order to have access to that. What is your learning style? What you want me to tell it to you, show it to you, get you involved, and provide the steps. All right, boom. What is your teaching style? Would you want me to tell it to you, show it to you, get you involved, or provide the steps? What is your memorization style? Would you want to hear it? Would you want to see it? Would you want to get involved? Or would you want to get it? You want to break it down? What is your present moment? You know what I'm saying? So once we establish this, now instead of us, what we normally do in this aspect, because we are trying to figure that out, believe whether we know it or not. Inside the conversation, you are trying to figure out a person's learning style. You are trying to figure out their teaching style. You are trying to figure out how they remember. This is why we ask the question: when you remember back in the day, or this is what happened to me, or when I did this, or when this person did. We're communicating that, but we're not allowing us. We're putting more energy into the chaotic aspect of it, or just going into trying to figure this, you know what I'm saying, the clutter out, instead of going into the discipline to like, all right, let's organize this thing. Let's organize it. There's got to be a sense of order now. All right, let's address it. Let's address what it is we're trying to achieve, knowing each other on this. Now that we know each other, now that we understand our styles, now practice and put effort into respecting those boundaries, those laws and principles, by utilizing and putting your words with true intention of thought of harmony, balance, reciprocity, and justice. Let's actually apply these aspects. Now we're actually practicing a discipline within talking. And with this discipline within talking, now we'll be rewarded, because now we have access to being able to ask questions that we didn't even need words in order to ask, because now we have applied these functions, provided these doors, and now we have access to communication in a way we have never experienced before. And then the understanding will come in that we don't have a literature to communicate the depthness of what it is we are trying to do. And the more we practice it, we are going to start developing the literature for. We can still create a new language, and we don't have to come up with a different letters or scripts or anything. We, just like our ancestors created language then, we've been creating language since the beginning of time. And I'm telling you, we can create a new language within a language that goes deeper into an aspect that we are trying to communicate. We're coming up with these new terms like manifestation, speaking into existence, these type of terms. Those are literatures that we're trying to implicate into the deeper realms. I'm telling you, those are the labels. When you apply this, you will actually experience it. And the experience and the energy is you come to this place where you like, I'm just trying to explain it. You're saying it, but the words that you are using are so much of surface words trying to complement a deeper aspect. And then you will understand the only way to have access to communicating this is by understanding the laws of sound, feeling, movement, and vision. And you'll know how to talk in the vision terminology. And you'll know the limitations and the expansionness of vision. You could talk in the experience properties. You'll know the expansiveness of feeling and the limitation of it. You could talk in sound properties. You know the expansionness of sound and the limitation of it. And you could go in movement principle. You know the expansion of it and the limitations of it. So therefore, we could break down when a person is saying, "You can't tell me that." Oh, I can tell you that. By law, there is nothing taking away the ability to say or to create a sound. There's nothing that can hinder or stop a sound from coming or being heard. There's nothing hindering that. So by law, it is correct to say a person can't tell you that, but it doesn't function as that way because sound is free and it can do that. But sound alone does not stop a person from doing that. But if a person is an auditorial teacher, then what they're communicating is that sound has a strong impact on them. That's what they're communicating, because we found, okay, you're an auditory teacher, so what you hear actually has a strong impact on you. And from that impact of what you hear, depending on your learning style, it may cause you to react this way. It may cause you to arrange, go in motion, you know what I'm saying, cycle this way, or it may get you to feel this way. So what you're really trying to communicate is what you're learning, but you're just only simply having access to put it in auditorial terminology because your teaching style. But now that I understand that your teaching style, and I know you're really trying to communicate the depthness of your feeling, we could just go there and now let's talk. Anything that I say doesn't hinder you from movement, doesn't hinder you from doing anything, because that would actually require for me to actually physically get involved. And my words have not got physically involved. Physically involved is me touching, grabbing, doing. Now that's a hindrance. And we'll start to see this within society, how they are using words, or how people are using these aspects and actually trying, and how we perceive it as controlling the person. It's not even control. It's just we don't know the laws. And once you know, you will be free and you'll move and navigate through situations totally different, because now you know the limitations, the boundaries. And this is what, listen to this process, organize this process, experience the process, watch the process. Practicing this is going to start formulating the literature and how to do this. Makes your brain be able to think and compartmentalize, put things in a different perspective, and it gives you a sense of power that you don't have to recite it to yourself, sound powerful. You don't, the words is, you can say that by truth enough, but it's just when you understand, it's like that no longer becomes a part of something necessary in life to do and say that, because that was only the chaos. Now that you know the order, the power of that is really in applying this strategy and utilizing it and seeing the benefit that comes from that. That's actually, and it doesn't need, and it doesn't really need words in order to explain it. Yet the creative part that you find in the literature too. But without the literature, you're still able to experience it and see it, and that's the beauty of it. So then you understand the power of what how the words are being used, because you're experiencing that which you thought was in the word actually within the function of actually applying laws. And then now that becomes secondhand, backhand. You're like, this is what a power is. That was, I can see the difference. There's a difference between it now. Now you have choices. Now you are able to yield and will yourself in between, and so forth and so forth. All right, and my last point, to focus on the auditorial aspect. Listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. As we know, auditory can exist in four aspects. You have auditorial present, you have auditorial learner, auditorial teacher, and auditorial memory. Now, depending on where your auditorial aspect is on your chart, and I mean, like when we're seeing the present moment over here on the left, teaching on the right, learning at the bottom, and memory at the top. Memory at the top. If you're an auditorial present person, then that means that the value in the sound, which is really what you're not really truly conscious of, you actually use your ability to speak in order to bring existence. Speaking for you is just simply existence. Another person may hear a person as auditorial present person speaking, and depending on where their auditory aspect is, they would think that they're using their ability to speak in the same capacity. So if you're an auditorial learner and you're in a person that's communicating auditory present, then you'll think that they're communicating in their way of learning. So you'll take everything they're saying as something being learned, but what they're communicating, how it's affecting them, is just bringing the presence, just bringing them into existence. It just simply exists. Sound is just existing. There's no thought really about it. There's no depthness of with it. It just simply brings forth the right now, everyday community with the now. It's just now. You know what I'm saying? No, the brain, for example, same thing brings now. If you're an auditorial learner, then sound for you is everything that you're learning. It's new. Sound, everything, your ability to speak. You speak, your speaking is your speaking is learning. When you're speaking, when people think you're just having a conversation, everything you're saying is learning. You're actually learning the whole time. Sound for you is always learning. You're an auditorial teacher, then you actually use your ability to speak in order to bring forth information. So speaking for you is teaching. You ain't speaking about nothing. When you speaking, it ain't no learning. It's everything that you are, everything that you know, everything that you learned, what you're teaching. It's all about teaching when you're auditorial. So you actually speak to give. Speaking for you is totally giving. The different from the auditorial learning. Speaking from that person is all receiving. No matter what is being said, it is received. When you're a teacher, everything you're saying is to give. You teach value. You ain't learning no value. You teach it. You teach the different aspects of value. Wherever value could be, you teach it. Whether it exists now, whether it exists later, whether you ain't experienced it yet, you know how to bring forth you know how to teach the value. You're gonna bring the value of things. If you're auditorial memory, then you actually use your memory, you actually use your ability to speak in order to remember. So speaking for you, a person will hear you speaking, you only speak in order for you to remember, because you don't know that you know it until you say it. You have to say it in order for you to know it. If you don't say it, you don't remember it. Like, you have to be able to speak on it. And that's what speaking for you inside of you is bringing a memory. It's connecting you. It's remembering the past or the future. Yeah, like I said, your auditory presence, speaking for you, it just simply brings the existence. So auditory person is like, shoot, when they speaking, it's like, it's just now. You know what I'm saying? Like, sound is just now. It just is in the present moment. It's right now. This is it. This is it. So those are the different aspects in which auditorial exists. And when I use the word value, I say that because sound is, another word for sound is value. You see this, all right, you call it tissue. That's the value. You can see it wiping, you can see it moving around, but you still, when you're communicating, hit me in this, you communicate me, that's value. All that is value. So that's the auditorial aspect. So yeah, so like we got up there, learning is give, learning is receiving, teaching is give. We got the 4 aspects that you see up there, which is your learning style, your teaching style, your memory style, which your memory style, which is past and future, and your present moment. And then we have the door. Well, I got the door and the drop. The door is the teaching style. That's what comes in, and the drop is what you receive from it. That's the learning. And the law of approaching the conversation is through addressing the person's teaching and learning style. 1 second. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, my apologies. So yes, so Yeah, so that so pretty much that's communication and translation. Breaking down the breaking down these degrees. Okay.
Be quiet because this still is an amazing perspective to me. It's amazing that you have grasped this concept in a way that it has become your natural self. And I feel like we have such a problem with communicating that something like this, even though I know your intention is to take it into schools, but you have done this with other people. I was listening to your live earlier, and I heard the young lady say, uh, "Watch this, listen." Like she gave you a spew, and that blew my mind. That you have people speaking your vocabulary, and it shows that people can change. Because she was probably like our age, or
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't seem like that much older or younger. But it just is amazing to me that people can get this. Um, before you go, can you tell us briefly how you adapted this for yourself? Like, when did this start for you? And then maybe we can make that another show. Or
All right. Listen to this process, organize this process, experience this process, watch this process. I would say for me, it probably happened about, I have to say, probably like 2 years ago.
mm-hmm,
Um, Probably like 2 years ago. And in the beginning, I was nowhere near like this. See, in the beginning, the eye opener was just knowing that there's a difference between a thought and a feeling. Just blew my mind because I knew that a thought and feeling was different, but I never heard nobody break it down and explain it to me. So,
mm-hmm,
and I was going around doing exercises with men and women, and I would like just take an object and I would tell them that men have to think first in order to feel, and women have to feel first in order to think. And I got a lot of backlash about it, so I just came up with experiments where I would just show a person like this, and then I would ask the guy, I was like, "Well, how do you feel about it?" And then
mm-hmm,
he would answer it as truthfully as it is as he can, and then I would say, "Well, the answer that you gave me wasn't actually a thought. I mean, actually a feeling. That was actually a thought because it was analyzing. You analyze, it was analytical." And then
mm-hmm,
I would turn around and say, "Well, now what do you think about this object?" And then he'll try to, and he'll answer they'll answer the question. And that's like, but that was a feeling because see, that was a release. So,
mm-hmm.
and then it was blowing people's mind. I'm blowing my mind too because I'm looking like I can't. This no one. Why haven't I not known this all this time?
Right.
And I started coming into other problems with it because people were saying people were saying like that's when I learned into the literature of it. Like when I would say express how they feel, it's like with some people I run across and like this how you feel and what they think. It was a lot of strong energy against that, and then that's when I learned. Okay, well, it's different literatures. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm,
saying to this aspect. So some people feeling is visual or auditory. You know what I'm saying. So when I
mm-hmm,
sat at the kitchen table one day and the voice just came to me and said, "Draw that pattern that I had up there," and I put the symbol of the lips and the symbol of the steps and then the symbol of the hand and the symbol of the eye. And like I said, it wasn't no literature, it wasn't nothing I'm writing down, but it's like just seeing it and me understanding it, it was me. And it blew me away. And then I was like, well, let me see if I communicate this with others. And I started seeing it and I was like, well, how can I deny something that has been proven itself? The only reason I want to deny it is because it came from myself. And
And as we move forward, we're gonna break this down because this is what is in Taki's head, and I know I know everybody doesn't learn the same. So I was trying to understand it, but we're gonna like break it down and show it to you in the steps that he was creating it. I know that's probably more work than you asked for, but I think it will be beneficial because I was trying to read along as you were going,
mm,
and it's to me, I just need more understanding. That's why I was more quiet tonight. I didn't. This was uncharted territory, so I was like, I don't have a leg in this race. Let me let this brother talk. But I definitely appreciate you for sharing something that was a journey for you as you're on that journey, actually, and helping a lot of us educators and parents and just people, just human beings, and how we communicate. A we're going to try to move this on. We may take a little break for the holidays, but I definitely want you all to ask questions as we're doing this. As it grows, we're going to get more and more people. And I just wish you success in what you're doing. And we got to get you up here to Baltimore soon. But it's something that is needed and necessary. In the classroom, as a teacher, I saw that first, but then I removed the classroom aspect and saw it was really it's helping me to communicate with people more, where I listen more versus just trying to react to
Mm.
something that triggered me. So I appreciate you. And if you want to give people your social media, how they can find you or communicate with you.
You could find me on Facebook. I have a health page on there where I put information on there with nutrition and as far as communication. It's called Get Rid of Any Disease.
Hmm.
So you could find a lot of information up on there. My Instagram, Taki Salam on Instagram. I put information up on there.
And it's
Also.
at the bottom of the screen too.
Mhm. And I have a YouTube page as well. That's communication. It's just communication translation, and a lot of content is on there too. Some of the classes that I've done is on there as well.
So when you see this go live, definitely jump on, watch the playback. You'll see his link is down the bottom for his Cash App. Please support this brother. If you got anything out of this, if you watch this at any point, support this brother. Give him some good trinkets, and we like the things that fold. Maybe not the things that jingle, but everything is cashable and usable. But thank you again, and peace out, everybody.
Peace, peace.